So picture this. It's Sunday morning. You're sitting on the edge of your bed, your head pounding, your mouth tastes like something died in it. You're doing that thing. You know the thing. Replaying fragments of last night. Well, at least the ones that you remember. What did I say? How did I embarrass myself this time? The shame is suffocating, like actually physical. And you make that promise, the one you've made 100 times before. I am never drinking again. But by Friday, that promise is dust. 3 years ago, this was me. Nearly every single weekend. I was the queen of bad habits, and red wine was my absolute weakness. I was leading an innovation program in the legal industry here in Singapore. On paper, everything was great, but I was drinking so much. And so much of it was my identity, or so I thought at the time. I was a party girl. I was a good time. And when COVID hit, my already heavy drinking went through the roof. And fun became something else completely, a little dark, actually. I felt really out of control and trapped in this cycle that I just didn't know how to break. And at the time, the question that kept haunting me was always like, am I an alcoholic? But here's the thing about that question. For me anyway, it led me absolutely nowhere helpful. Maybe I was, maybe I wasn't, so what? Then I read a line in a book that generally changed everything for me, literally everything. And if you've been thinking about dry January, or if you're questioning your relationship with alcohol at all, this episode is going to shift how you think about the whole thing. Because I'm not going to give you willpower tips or tell you to just push through. You've probably tried that before. What I'm going to do is tell you what actually worked for me. Now, everyone's experience is different, and everyone's alcohol consumption and their relationship with alcohol is different. But I will share what has worked for me, the quiet work that made quitting not just possible, but almost inevitable. So today we're exploring why the right question changes everything when it comes to alcohol. First, I'm going to break down the transformation that happened before I quit drinking, those 3 months that nobody usually talks about. I'll share exactly what you can do between now and January. We've got 77 days, my friends. That's not nothing. You're going to understand why observation matters more than willpower. And by the end of this, you'll have specific strategies to start preparing now if you're thinking about dry January. Or honestly, if you're just rethinking your relationship with alcohol. Because real change doesn't happen on January 1st. It happens way before that. Ready? Let's dive in. Hey, I'm Noemi, former queen of bad habits and corporate go-getter turned well-being coach and personal growth junkie. And in a world full of overwhelming wellness advice, we're here to cut through the noise. This is your space to master healthy habits, transform your mindset, own your well-being, and design a life you love on your terms. We're ditching the highlight reels and embracing the whole messy, imperfect journey towards becoming our absolute best selves. You're the author of your own story. So are you ready to write the next chapter? Let's go, and welcome to Unwritten Potential. Hello, my friends, and welcome to Unwritten Potential with me, Noemi. I am so thrilled that you're here, and especially because, of course, this one is a bit of a personal one for me. And if my own experience can help you in any way, I feel like the intent of this podcast will have been met. So the book that I mentioned is Not Drinking Tonight. I will link it in the show notes, but it's a must read if you want to rethink your relationship with alcohol. I've talked about it in the past, and I really highly recommend it. And so I picked it up in December. I read it by the pool on our Christmas holiday in Bali. And at the time, I was drinking heavily. Like, my version of drinking heavy might be different from yours, but if I was drinking, it was 1 up to 2 bottles of red wine. Okay. So I was a heavy drinker. The line that stopped me cold was, would your life be happier without alcohol? And honestly, I know that some people talk about the power of books that change their lives, and I'm always a bit, okay, whatever. But this line really, really changed my life, and really everything shifted in that moment. Because of course my life would be happier without alcohol. The answer was so stupidly obvious, it hurt. This wasn't about labels. This wasn't about shame. This was about choice. Would my life be happier without this? Yes, full stop. But here's where it gets interesting, because knowing and doing are very different things. And I read that question in December, but I didn't quit until March. I lived with that answer for 3 whole months. And some nights I drink and wake up thinking, yeah, my life would 100% be happier without this shit. And some nights were fun with no drama, and some nights absolutely weren't. And the cognitive dissonance was uncomfortable, right? Like really uncomfortable, because I knew my life would be happier without alcohol, but I wasn't ready to let it go just yet. And you know what? That's okay. That discomfort was part of the process. And this is the bit that nobody talks about, the bit that actually matters. Those 3 months weren't wasted time. They were essential. I was observing my patterns, just watching, no judgment, and just curiosity, noticing when I reached for a drink, why I reached for a drink, watching how alcohol showed up in my social life, my stress relief, my celebrations. I wasn't trying to change anything yet. I was just paying attention. And here's what I noticed. I wasn't someone who could just have a few, have 1 or 2 and leave it at that. And I knew that. Late nights, like really drinking in excess. And personally, I couldn't control it. I never really knew when to stop, when to call it. And I kept trying to make it work. I had all of these different rules. Tonight, I'm only drinking beer. Tonight, I'm having a glass of water between every alcoholic drink. Tonight, I'm only drinking white spirits. Anyway, just loads of different strategies, but none of them stuck, because deep down, I wasn't ready. Then one morning, after actually a really pleasant night out, we were having coffee with my husband on our balcony, and I said, I'm taking a break from drinking. I didn't say, I think I want to quit, or I should probably cut back, but I'm quitting. And honestly, no one was as surprised as I was, because I had tried a million different things. I have done alcohol counseling. I read all the books, but at that moment, I was finally ready. And why? Because I had done the internal work first. The transformation didn't happen when I quit drinking. It happened in those few months beforehand, those months of quiet observation. And that's what made quitting not just possible for me, but almost inevitable. So why am I telling you this in October? Dry January is 77 days away. If you've been thinking about trying it or rethinking your relationship with alcohol altogether, now is the time to start preparing. Not by forcing yourself, not by making grand declarations. You're not going to become a brand new person magically on the 1st of January. But you can begin now that quiet work of observation and reflection. And we love the fantasy of instant transformation, right? We want to wake up on January 1st as this completely different person who, of course, doesn't drink alcohol and eats, 5 veggies a day and goes for a run 3 times a week. But real change doesn't work that way. It's not a light switch, it's a dimmer that adjusts gradually until one day you realize that everything kind of looks and feels different. Those 3 months for me, that was when the real change happened. The actual quitting drinking, that was just the visible part. So if you're listening to this and you can feel something is stirring, even if it's just a vague sense of, oh, okay, maybe I should think about this, you are right on time, my friend. One important disclaimer before we continue: if you're drinking heavily every day, or you experience withdrawal symptoms when you don't drink, please speak with a doctor before making changes. This is for people questioning their relationship with alcohol, not if you have a physical dependence. So what can you do between now and January? And here's what could actually help. First thing, start observing without judgment. And the without judgment is the key. As someone who has experienced the deep shame that comes from drinking too much, trying to hide the fact that I'm drinking too much, feeling embarrassed about how I behaved the night before, that shame, that judgment is not helpful. So notice when you drink and when you don't. What situations trigger your urge to drink? What are you actually seeking? Is it relaxation? Is it trying to switch off? Is it connection? Is it just a bad habit? A way to mark the end of the day? Permission to be a bit silly? Don't try to change anything yet, but just watch with open curiosity. And this is so important because you're collecting data. You're not beating yourself up here. You're collecting data. And if during this observation period you notice you cannot go a day without alcohol, you cannot go without drinking, or if you experience shaking, sweating, anxiety when you don't drink, it's so important to discuss that with a healthcare provider. There is tons of help out there. Second thing, ask yourself the right question. Not, am I drinking too much? Not, do I have a problem? The question, would my life be happier without alcohol? Would my life be more joyful without alcohol? Would my life be more fulfilling, more rich without alcohol? And sit with whatever answer comes up. If it's yes, don't panic. If it's maybe, that's information too. If it's no, that's okay. This episode might not be for you. But here's the thing, even if the answer is yes, you might not be ready yet. That's normal. The gap between knowing and being ready, that's where the real work happens. Third thing, and this one changed everything for me, notice the gap between your actions and your values. I know that values can be a bit esoteric, right? But do you value being present with your loved ones, but every Sunday morning you just like fuzzy-headed and don't want to make conversation with anyone? Do you value health, which was a big one for me, but then you totally ignore how alcohol makes you feel? I wrote about this on Substack recently. I used to track all my calories, take all of these supplements, and then would actually go on and track 2 bottles of wine in my fitness pal. Like, what the fuck? So notice these gaps between what matters to you, your values, and your actions. Maybe write them down. The discomfort of that gap is what eventually creates change. It's not shame, it's not guilt, but that quiet awareness of misalignment. And finally, pay attention to your I'm never doing this again kind of moments. You know, the ones when you promise yourself you'll cut back or you quit. What does that promise feel like? How long does it last? This pattern, again, is data. It's not failure. It's information about what's not working. So then by the time January arrives, you won't be starting from scratch. You'll have 77 days of self-knowledge. You'll understand your patterns, your triggers, your reasons, and that makes all the difference between a willpower battle that probably will end on January 15th and a genuine shift that might just stick. Before we wrap up, let me be honest about what that shift feels like. Well, felt like for me anyway, because all of the glossy before and after stories, for me, they skip the bit in the messy middle. If you do decide to take a break from alcohol, the early days will not be magical. I thought as soon as I give up drinking, my skin is going to clear up. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to have so much energy. Everything will just feel and taste better. But your brain needs time to reset its dopamine levels. So everything feels a bit flat for a while. For me, that took a few months. For a lot of people, week 2 or week 3 are often the hardest. The novelty has worn off, but you don't feel the benefits yet. So be patient with the process. If you're feeling a bit flat, a bit meh at the beginning, this is your brain rewiring itself. But then you start noticing things. Beauty in mundane moments. Your inner voice is quieter, is kinder. You have more energy, better sleep, sharper thinking. You're more present, more patient, more yourself. I talked earlier on about my identity being this party girl. To be honest, I'm still someone that loves dancing, is way too loud, has tons of energy. But I am more myself now. And here's something that might surprise you. Once you get through that initial reset period, it might just be a lot easier than you think. Not everyone finds sobriety a constant struggle. The hardest part for me was to make the decision. Once the decision was made, I haven't really regretted or missed it since, or found myself in awkward situations because of it. Now, I feel pretty spectacular. Not perfect. I'm not magically fixed, but I'm more aligned with who I actually want to be. And more importantly, I learned that even when you feel powerless, out of control, there's always a way forward. You're the author of your own story, and you can write the next chapter at any point, my friend. The right question changes everything, and you deserve better than accepting feeling stuck in this. Okay, let's bring this all together. If you're thinking about dry January or questioning your relationship with alcohol, start now. Not with quitting, with observing. Ask yourself the question, would my life be happier without alcohol? And notice the gap between your actions and your values. Pay attention to your patterns without judgment. You've got 77 days. That's not nothing. That's time to do all of the internal work that you need to make that change inevitable. Thank you so much for listening. This has been Unwritten Potential with me, Noemi. And remember, the transformation might already be beginning. Bye.